Sheikh Naveed Anwar will be talking about self-managed super fund compliance. He is an expert in this area, and he has the purpose of that one is some of you may have already self-managed super fund but struggling with some issues. Some would like to establish it. What are the rules? What are the not to do's? So I would like to invite Sheikh Naveed Anwar to do the first presentation.
As Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum. As Zahir Hussain introduced me, my name is Naveed Anwar. I'm a public practitioner. I've been doing this for the last 10, 12 years. So today's topic is about the SMSF, its establishment, compliance, what to do, what don't do, investment strategies. So we'll be talking about briefly about those things. And go to the next. So it's a disclaimer. It's simply a general information session. It's not an advice. So anything regarding the SMSF, why the finance is involved, you need to have an expert advice from your accountant or a financial planner or whosoever you are associated with. So it's just for the knowledge purpose and the information purpose. Next. So what is SMSF? Self-managed super fund is a private super fund managed by the members who are also called as trustees. So they manage itself apart from the industry super fund. So you can have up to 6 members in SMSF. Then trustees are responsible for managing the funds, investing as per super laws and regulations. Next. So it's a very popular area at the moment. You can see over 625,000 SMSF have been set up with $990 billion assets. It's a massive market. It's a massive, sector of this economy. Go to next, please. Around 1.1 million members in all SMSFs. Over 65% SMSFs have existed over 10 years. SMSF had around average $1.55 million per asset on a median base and 21% increase in 5 years. So median age of SMS members are 63 years. These are all sourced from ATO. Next. Okay, when it comes to the structure setting up, we have 2 options because every member is a trustee and every trustee is a member. So you can either be an individual trustee, could be a corporate trustee. They both have their benefits and disadvantages. Like with the investment trustee, you have a low cost, you don't have to pay a SIC fee and kind of stuff, but there is a cost of administration, burden, succession issues, maybe higher penalties. When it comes to the corporate trustee, yes, it's easy for continued successions, administrative efficiency, you can have a great asset protection, but bit of higher cost with the SIC and kind of regulators. Next. Okay, when you set up this, the main source of income, when you grow it, it's contributions. What kind of contributions you can make in your super funds? The first one, the most popular, is a concessional contribution that you claim a tax concession for in your personal tax return. It includes like employer contribution, which is from employer, salary sacrifice, or a personal contribution where you claim a tax deduction. And the cap is a $30,000 per annum, all source of concessional contribution, including your employer contribution, your salary sacrifice, your personal contribution. Next. The other one is a non-concessional contribution. It's usually 4 times the limit of the concessional contribution, which is $120,000 per annum. This is a personal contribution out of your pocket where you don't claim any tax deduction. It's a post-tax contribution into your super fund. Next. And there are some special conditions. If you missed your concessional super fund in the past due to any reason, you can carry forward those limits up till 5 years if you have a balance less than $500,000. So you can catch up contributions for the last 5 years. Next. And then there is a bring forward rule for non-concessional contribution. If you want to put more money into your super fund for some reason, you can bring forward for 3 years, up to 3 years. So you can put advanced super in a non-concessional for up to 3 years. But there is some limits apply for the thresholds, which are, next please. If you have a balance less than 1.66 million, you can put 360,000 up to 3 years for the 3 years. If it is up to 1.78 million, you can put 2 years. If it is 1.9 million, you can put 120,000 for 1 year. And if you have a balance more than 1.9 million dollar, you can't put any non-concessional contribution. Next, please. Then it comes to the strategies, how you invest that super fund, because the super fund is inflowing money from employer contribution, everything. How do you do that? Like, it's a legal requirement. You must have an investment strategy, which you should consider risk, diversification, liquidity, and tax implication. So you need to have a robust investment strategy, and it should be reviewed every year or a couple of years to adjust your needs and your requirements. Next. Then there is a compliance. Superfund law is complied under SIS, Super Industry Supervision Act, and SIS regulation, which is all like about how you would make a contribution, how would you operate this super fund. This all is operated by SIS Act and SIS Reg. There is annual reporting and auditing requirement. Every year you have to have an audit from a SMSF auditor. Then you need to report it and lodge it with the ATO. Next. And there are penalties for non-compliance. Next, please. So what are the permitted investments? When it comes to the investments, what you can do is you can put the money into shares, managed funds, ETFs, unit trusts, public unit trusts, related unit trusts, or private companies, which are permitted in the super fund accordingly. And next. Property could be residential, non-residential, industrial, or an overseas property. Cryptocurrency, coins, or digital currency, you can invest in those. Collectibles and antiques includes personal use assets such as gold, artwork, vintage cars, etc., but with the stringent criteria to ensure compliance. Then you can invest in bonds, fixed interest, Australian as well as international. Next. Term deposit and cash, which is with the banks, you can do it. Next, please. So what are the restrictions? In-house asset. You cannot trade or you cannot take a transaction with the related party. This is in-house asset. You cannot give a loan to the related party. You cannot buy or sell assets, with some exceptions. Normally, you can't buy or sell assets with your related parties. That is in-house asset. So it should not increase 5% of your total assets. If you have done any in-house assets transaction, it could be below 5% to be in a safe side. Next. Loan to relatives and members of the super fund, you can't give that loans. You cannot give any benefit. You can't take any benefit from them. Next. Collectible and personal use assets should not be used by related parties. They should have a separate insurance and a storage facility. It cannot be like within your space, like with your personal assets. Next, please. Residential property. SMSF can invest in residential property, but it should not be bought or sold to or from the related party. Borrowing restrictions, SMSF generally cannot borrow, but with the exception, that is limited recourse borrowing, which is LRBA. So it's just an exception for that. And some mortgage broker that can better explain how it works like that way. And then we have acquiring assets from related parties. Don't do that. You can't acquire assets from your related parties. Next, please. So every year you have to go for an audit. Annual requirement from approved SMSF audit. Then there is a audit process is of two sides. One is a financial side, otherwise the compliance check. Compliance is on a more weightage around, you can say 65-35. So these two things are being checked by the auditor, and you should have a documentation kept in your, like as a trustee for a few years, which is I think 5 or 7 years. You need to keep that. Next, please. What you can do with SMSF in a nutshell: have a robust investment strategy, stay compliant with accounting and bookkeeping and reporting, yes, seek professional guidance, and that are don't do's. Avoid illegal lending arrangements, do not use fund assets for personal use, avoid non-arm's length transactions, withdrawals. That comes at the end when you retire and you need to withdraw that funds. There are a couple of options. Lump sum withdrawal is, go back. Yeah. Lump sum withdrawal is you can withdraw lump sum money once you reach your preservation age and condition of release is met. Condition of release is reaching preservation age or retiring, reaching 65 years of age, regardless if you are working or not working, terminal medical conditions. So if you withdraw your super fund after 60 years, there is usually a tax-free, but with some conditions and limits. Next, please. Pension payments, once you retire, you can convert your balance into a pension. Instead of withdrawing whole lump sum, you can create a pension for a regular income source. So there are two types of pensions. One is account-based pension. When you reach your retirement age and you're retired and condition of release is met, you can convert your whole amount into pension and create an annual pension from, and there is a minimal withdrawal from the pension. Then you have a TTR, transition to retirement. If you have reached the preservation age and still working, and you want some money to compensate your income, and you want to semi-retire sort of things like that, you can start transition to retirement pension, which has some portion of super fund you can withdraw every year. Not the whole amount, but the portion. Next, please. And there are other conditions like financial difficulty, permanent disability, or compassionate ground, where one can access its super, but with some conditions and limitations. Next, please. And there are penalties for non-compliance. If there is a non-compliance, could be administrative penalties ranging from $1,000 to $10,000 or $12,600. Another step is a disqualification, where ATOC's persistent non-compliance and trustees not abiding by the law and disregarding the law, they can disqualify the person or trustee from managing super funds or doing that trustee jobs. And there are criminal and civil penalties if something found deliberate or some frauds in the super fund. That's the extreme life. Next. And the conclusion of this 2 days SMSF compliance is, so self-managed super fund is a super fund managed by its own members as a trustee. SMSF has a great control and flexibility over investor choices. Then you have a vast range of permitted investments. However, they must comply with specific rules. Next, please. So that's all from my side. You have any question? Go to next slide. And if you need any specific question which I couldn't answer today, you can just scan this code and send me an email or a message. I will try to.
What's the name?
You just raise your hand and I bring the mic to you. So,
Thank you. What's the minimum age for a start of TTR?
It's a preservation age, and now it's I think 60.
It used to be 55. So
55. It's going up. Sorry, 57 now.
57.
Yep, it's going up. Where you can.
So you can start the TTR from 57 onwards.
57, I think. Yeah.
And it used to be normally for up to 5 years?
Depends. If you retire at 60 and you don't want to go to a job, you retire permanently,
Okay.
then you can access your super. If it is you are continuing, then after 60 you can have a different portion to withdraw.
And my understanding was that up to a portion you can withdraw the money during your TTR stage, and that portion used to be tax-free portion.
But there is limits, like if you are 60 years and withdrawing a TTR up to 10% is tax-free. You can't withdraw more than that. It's 10% up to 10% is tax-free.
So technically, you could do a contribution of up to 10%. And then
It's again advisor side.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is out of my scope.
Sure. Thank you.
Better to talk about some financial advisor.
Thanks for the great question. Our 8 speakers gave to have answered their 3 great questions and try to avoid discussion. So someone raise a hand here. Yeah.
You said if you go with the corporate trustee structure, there is asset protection. Can you explain a bit on that one?
Because when you buy assets, assets are always under the trustee name. If it's an SMSF, you are personally buying the assets under your name for the super fund. But the title on the assets doesn't sometimes say it's for the super fund. It's just say your name. If something happens to your name or something goes wrong with your name, your assets could be exposed to that sense. So in the company, it's a separate structure. The assets are under the company name. That is a bit of, yeah.
My name is Mumtaz. Just a question is how we can close the SMS Super Fund and what are the process to follow?
Okay, winding up is just a process like procedure. You have to make a minutes of the meeting with the trustees or the members. And if you agree to wind up, you need to wind up and close the books, transfer your rollovers, and then get an audit. After completion audit, it's wind up. You need to do a final audit as well.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. So my question is, could you discuss the pros and cons, or if somebody is considering investment property, to do it whether under super SMFF or to do it like outside of that? What are some of the pros and cons? Obviously, you've shared some of the cons being the compliance and added auditing and all that. What are some advantages? Could you also highlight?
Look, investing under your name or a super fund name could have a tax implications, could have financial management, but bit of I would add here. If you have an assets under super fund and you retire, all assets backed by, assets backing the pension phase could be tax free. The assets backing like pension income, the income earning on those assets is normally tax free with some conditions. Yes. Walaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Riaz. Is it suitable for a startup to open up an SMS fund? If yes, then how is it possible? Suppose if you are a single startup creator, then is it possible for this single person to start up an SMSF?
Yes, SMSF can have up to 6 members. There is no minimum requirement. There is 1 can open a super fund, but exception is you cannot set up a super fund with individual trustee. You must have a corporate trustee if you are a single member fund.
Islam, brother.
So is it useful for a startup to?
Again, it's your balances, everything like with the financial advice.
Because the idea is to save money on taxes later on. So is it the right strategy or you have another strategy?
SMSF, look, tax strategy or tax implications, it depends on the strategy, what you're doing, what you're not doing. Single member fund, setting up a fund or putting money in the industry fund with the taxation point of view on the super fund is nothing, no change, no difference. But it's again depends how much you've got a balance, where do you want to invest. It's better to consult some advisor on this space.
Last question.
Yes.
For anyone who's wanted to start an SMS, what's the minimum amount that's required?
Again,
Or is it advisable to start up?
look, by law, you can start from any amount, but for the investments and kind of stuff, better consult your financial advisor because it depends what investment you're going to do, how much money you need. That will be advised by either a financial planner or your tax accountant or your accountant which knows about what the circumstances are.
Thank you for the great questions and thank you Naveed Bhai for the great presentation. I know it's a hard topic, there's a lot to it This going to be our regular feature about self-managed super fund. Definitely, it's quite regulated industry, and as Brother Naveed mentions, take proper advice based on your circumstances. There is a lot to it, and if you have further questions, as Brother Naveed mentioned, you can scan this and ask question directly from after this session. I'll be moving on to the big clap for Brother Naveed.